live at Richmond Fairgrounds Speedway in Virginia. Seen at tomorrow's Miller High Life 400 Grand National Stock Car Race. You're going to see it live right here on TBS Sports. I'm Dave Despain, and today, well, we've got the highlights and the news from all around the world of motorsports, but of course the spotlight is on stock car racing. Last Sunday, Bill Elliott overwhelmed the best in the business to win the Daytona 500. Now we come to Richmond for the first Grand National short track race of the season. The action got underway yesterday. Darrell Waltrip turned the fastest lap in the 25-year history of this place. He broke his own record of a year ago at 95 miles an hour. Darrell, one of 9 drivers above the old mark. Jeff Bodine has the outside pole. Waltrip's teammate Neil Bonnet will start in the 3rd spot. Dale Earnhardt and Bobby Allison rounding out the top 5 as we check the lineup. Past Daytona 500 winner Benny Parsons will be our expert commentator tomorrow, and he's standing by live with the pole sitter.
Innovations are almost impossible to keep up with in every phase of life. In automobile racing, it seems like every 6 months there's something new that you have to have. I talked to Darrell Waltrip this morning. He told me something that finds hard to believe, that his car that he has here on the pole is 2 years old. Darrell, why is that?
You know, it's a funny thing, Benny. I guess there's a certain amount of black magic that goes into these cars. We've talked to Chevrolet engineers. We've had the cars in wind tunnels. We've had people look at the chassis on these cars and say, man, that's junk. We could build something a whole lot better than that. But we've never been able to, nobody's ever been able to do it. On paper, they can draw up a car that is 10 mile an hour faster than the one we have, but when we take it to the racetrack, it just won't run that well. There's something about a race car. Once you get it dialed in, as we say, when we bring that car here, we know exactly what springs to put in it to set on the pole and win this race. That car knows when it's at Richmond, and it runs this track just like it's been here a dozen times before, and it has. That's part of it, I think.
Okay, Dave.
Well, Ricky Rudd, last year's winner of this race, hit the wall in qualifying. He's going to start downfield. Bill Elliott, the Daytona winner, will start 13th tomorrow. We're going to hear from him shortly. And tomorrow, our exclusive live flag-to-flag coverage of the race will start here on TBS Sports at 12:50 Eastern Time. Be tuned in here for the Miller 400. Now we've got a late-breaking story from Miami, Florida. Chris Economaki, the editor-publisher of National Speed Sport News, on the scene. The story, a political squabble at the 2nd Camel GT Sports Car Race of the year.
The dramatic growth and new respectability that automobile racing enjoys in the United States these days has reached more than the press, radio, TV, fans, and American business. It has come to the attention of political activists as well. A last-minute scratch from the entry to this year's Lowenbrow Grand Prix of Miami has saved the organizers of the race and the city of Miami from a possible bitter and perhaps tempestuous political demonstration. The city of Miami is largely black. Its mayor is Hispanic. And some black activists have demanded that the South African entry of Cyril van der Merwe and Tony Martin be banned from the race on racial grounds. And the city council, along with the mayor, caved in and issued a resolution banning this team from this weekend's race. Fortunately, the South Africans' car, which was damaged at Daytona, could not be repaired in time, so they've withdrawn, saving the embarrassment of a demonstration. John Bishop of IMSA refused to comment on it. Everyone wants it hushed up. But it looks as though automobile racing is going to be the focus of political demonstrations, and the big question now is, what will the activists do next time? Will they show at Sebring, Atlanta, or wait for the downtown race in Columbus, Ohio, where the people are close and the crowd's big later in the season?
Thank you, Chris. Next Saturday, a somewhat brighter story of Miami's new IndyCar track. Take a quick look at how they qualified down there for the GP. John Paul Jr. on the pole for the 2nd time in a row, and the Daytona 24-hour winners, Foyt and Wallach, will be starting from 2nd spot tomorrow. The GTU race is just getting underway down there. We'll hope to have the results before we're off the air. And when we come back, I'm going to visit with my North Georgia mountain neighbor, Bill Elliott. We got together after qualifying and reviewed the Daytona 500. Last Sunday, this soft-spoken 29-year-old North Georgia mountain man claimed the biggest prize in stock car racing. Bill Elliott must feel pretty good.
Well, it really did. It's something that you always dream and hope for. You know, when 3 or 4 years ago, I didn't feel like I'd be there, but here we are.
You've been a Ford family, you Elliots, all your lives. And then along comes Cale Yarborough and gets a big factory deal and lots of wind tunnel time. Did it feel extra good to go out and beat his car with your homemade race car last weekend?
Well, I think the biggest thing to us is we're trying to outrun the competition no matter what it is. And, you know, it did, but still yet it's something that you want to go out and outrun all the guys no matter what they're driving, Ford, GM, or whatever.
And you did that very effectively. Were you surprised nobody came out of the pack to really challenge you during the race?
Well, by the time everybody got gathered back up, there was nobody left. A lot of the good cars fell out of the race, and there toward the end of the race, when the cautions did come out, Neil was left there to race, and then he finally ended up blowing up right there at the end of the race. So there was really nobody left to race.
The only real problem you had was one endless pit stop to tape up a broken headlight cover. Was that legitimate, or were the officials just trying to hold you back and let everybody else catch up?
Well, that's hard to say. You know, I'd rather not comment on that one.
You were in there a long time, though, weren't you?
Well, I could have had a sandwich and, you know, a good lunch at the time I was in the pit. So it's something that, you know, you get a little irritated about things, but I guess that's racing.
On that last yellow, when Neil got up there, did you really think he had a shot at you, or could you pull away from him when you wanted to?
Well, it's a thing. You never know when two cars could get hooked up together and get you in a bad situation, and I just didn't want that to happen, and you just never know. That's what I hated about when the white and the green came out together. You know, you could have missed the gear, the car could have loaded up a little bit or anything, and there you'd have been outrun for that one-lap dash, and the way we'd run all day long, but it all worked out.
Now the toughest question of all. You were 1.5 miles faster than anybody else in qualifying. You were letting off in every corner to keep from lapping the field in the 125. You blew them away on Sunday. What's your secret weapon?
Hard work, I guess.
Is it that simple?
Well, no, it ain't that simple, but we've had a good combination. I feel like Ernie doing the engines and me driving a car and Dan helping us out. It all works out.
There's your Daytona winner, Bill Elliott. Ken Squire called the play-by-play last Sunday and will again tomorrow. Ken, your thoughts on the 500?
David, two items as we stand here tonight. Item one, a great tradition continues after that Daytona 500 that goes right back to the beginning, to the France family, and then the Flocks and the Wood brothers and the Petty family. And that is, it wasn't a team that won or a car or a driver. It was the new family on the block of Winston Cup Grand National Racing. And that's the Elliott family of Dawsonville, Georgia. They are going to be the super strong team in the years to come as long as that family unit hangs together. Item two is right here at Richmond. The second headline, new tire rule could put racing in the pits. That was the Harold Pearson story in the Richmond Times-Dispatch, and we think it supersedes everything else in the paper. Behind me are the trucks that usually have 1,000 tires mounted for tomorrow's race. Only 700 this time. We have an in-depth look at this tire story. A new regulation for NASCAR starts tomorrow, and we'll hear more about it later on Motor Week Today.
And on the subject of families, well, the head of stock car racing's most famous clan has had an interesting observation on the Daytona winning Elliott's.
Well, you know, they like all families. They have their ins and outs, but right now they got it all together because they're winning. And they'll be just like any family or any other team. When they start having trouble, then they start getting mad at each other and they start splitting up the same way.
We're going to hear a lot more from Richard. He's been pretty outspoken this week. His was one of a dozen potent teams, the most potent teams in stock car racing, who blew up their cars trying to catch Bill Elliott last Sunday. We toured the garage here at Richmond asking what the problem was.
Well, I think the temperature had a lot to do with it. You know, all week we were down there with the temperature. One day it'd be up about 60, next day it was down to 40, and the barometer was going up and down like a yo-yo. So this really hurts the carburation in the engine when you can't keep the jets and the carburation just right. So when the temperature got up to around 70 degrees on Sunday, I think it had a lot of bearing on the whole situation.
I don't think nobody made a mistake of jetting as much as they made a mistake of working their car too hard, too early. Nobody set up for a conservative race. Everybody was set up to run flat out, and I think they used their car up.
The big deal really is everybody's just pushing for as much as they can get out of the cars, and a lot of it wasn't in there. And everybody tries to get a little bit more every year and a little bit more, and a lot of us went overboard with it.
Well, despite all that attrition, the CBS telecast was the top-rated sports show in America last week. The speeds at Daytona, the highest ever. The drivers had their hands full trying to keep their cars out of the wall all week. There was a lot of single-file action simply because you can't get real frisky at 200 miles an hour. Now, contrast that with Saturday, the Goodies 300 late model sportsman race. Small carburetors. These cars run 180. They put on the best show of Speed Week. 3, even 4 abreast in the banking. This isn't the first lap. This is 200 miles in, and they ran like that all day. Jeff Bodine, a great scramble to victory. For my money, that's a better show than Follow the Leader, even if the leader is running that magic number, 200 miles an hour. Now, Daytona Speed Week had a little of everything, from short track fender banging to super speedway drafting. But for one group of racers, the special appeal of February in Florida is memories.
I think when I came down to Daytona and raced on the beach, I was the first Yankee to come down here. I came from Rhode Island originally. And I'd come down every year and run on the beach, and I think that's the greatest thrill that I ever had in my life, and I wish it would come back.
Well, of course, the old days will never return, but Sam Packard and the Eastern old-timers relive past glories each speed week at Daytona. They exercise some fine old race cars under a strict speed limit designed to protect the equipment and the drivers. Enforcing that limit, flagman Mike Collins, who ranks as one of the group's great storytellers.
I remember we raced at Newmarket, New Jersey one time, which had no hub rails, and if you went off on the third and fourth turn and went into the cornfield, you damn well better get your car out there, because the farmer would come out with a shotgun, and you'd have to pay for all the corn you mowed down.
We'll have the motorcycle action when Motor Week continues live from Richmond Fairgrounds Speedway. The stars of Supercross are in the home of the Braves, we should say, Atlanta Fulton County Stadium tonight. After the race, a lot of the stars catching a red-eye flight to California for tomorrow's finale of the Golden State Motocross Series. Last weekend in Hollister, California, next to last round, that series heated up the championship battles in 2 out of 3 classes. Now, the 125 division should be a cakewalk. Rick Ryan won Sunday. Runner-up A.J. Whiting holds a solid lead in the series standings, and he can lock up the championship with a top 10 run tomorrow. But it's a different story in the 250cc class. We've got a tight 2-rider battle between Kawasaki's Jeff Ward and Yamaha's Jim Holley. Ward, number 2, took a crucial victory last week, and he trails Holley by a narrow margin going into the finale. If Ward can duplicate that victory tomorrow, he could snatch the title away. Best battle of all, that's in the 500 class. A mere 44 points separating 3 riders. Number 48, Willie Simons, scored a second-place finish behind 32 Rodney Smith at Hollister. Simons moves into a tie for second in the standings, and the point leader, Phil Larson, hopes to rebound from a dismal 7th-place finish last weekend and pull off his first-ever Golden State Series title. We go on to IndyCar competition now. Several teams have already shaken down their 85 March chassis on the short tracks and the road courses. On Thursday, Johnny Rutherford gave the new March its first 200-mile-per-hour super speedway test. The result was a big setback. The struts that hold the side pods on the car pulled out, ripping up the bodywork. The crew chief, Johnny Caples, calls it a major design flaw and says the March factory will have to fix it before anybody can do any more 200-mile-per-hour testing. Well, the factory says we'll take a look at it, but they add that particular car was a short tracker. It wasn't designed to go 200 in the first place. Rumors that officials in Monaco are considering, or were considering, an American-style IndyCar race for the famed Monaco Grand Prix are true. In fact, John Frasco, the head of the IndyCar circuit, visited that Mediterranean principality recently to talk a little shop. But this week, a compromise was reached, and that keeps the May 19th race on the Formula One World Championship schedule. Formula One officials have been threatening to cancel Monaco's sanction, the dispute there over television rights. Bill Elliott's Daytona runaway is the latest in a long string of racing victories for Ford. We recall another of those now as Valvoline brings you a page from Ken Squire's scrapbook.
Hello, everybody. Now, another great moment in motorsports. June 10th, 1967, Le Mans, France, site of the world's most prestigious sports car endurance race, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. The stage is set for an epic battle as an all-American Ford team seeks to defend the overall championship against the proud Italian Ferrari juggernaut. Leading the American fleet of 7 Ford prototypes is gentleman Dan Gurney. His teammate, the brass Texan A.J. Foyt, who just 12 days previously gained his 3rd win at Indianapolis. At the start, the Fords moved to the front. They used their superior speed on the straightaways to take the top 5 positions. Then, during the night, attrition takes its toll. By morning, just 16 to 55 starters are still in the race. But the Foyt-Gurney Ford doesn't falter. The Ferraris in 2nd and 3rd cannot overcome a magnificent 32-mile lead, and at the end of 24 hours, it's an all-American victory in Ferrari's backyard for the American Fords. I'm Ken Squire, and I'll be back next week with another great moment in motorsports.
We'll take a look at the big tire change controversy here at Richmond when Motor Week continues. We're back live, Richmond Fairgrounds Speedway in Virginia, where Danny Fair won the 150-lap stock car preliminary here this afternoon, and tomorrow the Winston Cup stars do battle. Dave Despain with Benny Parsons, who will give us his prediction later. In that race tomorrow, the Winston Cup stock car teams will be dealing with a new tire changing rule, and the reactions on pit road have been mixed. Benny Phillips has that story.
Racing tires are expensive. Each new tire used in Grand National competition costs $160.
To Goodyear field manager Phil Homer, some teams have been spending themselves into a hole.
Last year, the competition was so intense in Grand National racing that the teams were actually using tires, every caution flag they put on 4 tires to basically keep up with the other teams. And it turned out at the end of the year that their costs were so extremely high, they couldn't believe it.
With tomorrow's Richmond 400, Grand National teams will now be limited to a 2-tire change during any pit stop under caution. Some of the sport's better financed teams are objecting.
You know, after we've spent $1 million and a half for a year on our budget, then, you know, why should we be in a situation where we can't execute when a race is going on? You know, the first time somebody loses a car that's cost them $65,000 or $70,000 because they didn't change tires, or they go from first to third and they say, hey, you know, we could have changed all 4 tires, we could have won the race, and it's cost them $40,000 or $50,000, then they're going to look at the rule a little different too.
Many car owners, including Richard Childress, support the new rule.
Well, as a car owner, I think it's great, because last year it would have saved me like $40,000. You know, I don't want to jeopardize anyone's safety, and I don't feel it will by being able to change 2 tires at one time.
Reporting from Daytona International Speedway for MotorWeek Illustrated, I'm Benny Phillips.
It's time now to name our champion spark plug racer of the week, and you know who it is, don't you? What you may not know is that Bill Elliott is a budding country western music star. Give a listen now to Bill's contribution to a new album of country songs by the great stars of stock car racing.
I'm Dawsonville, Georgia's race driving son. My car's number 9, a running son of a gun. I got my start when I was just 17, driving a car on my daddy's race team. A 63 Fairlane got me my start, but the way the car ran, I might as well left it parked. Things got even worse in 76 with a Torino Ford that couldn't be fixed. But now things are different, the crowd's roar is heard when I pass the stands in my new Thunderbird. I'm Wild Bill Elliott, a crazy racing man. I'd like to live up to John Wayne if I can. I'm driving my best when I make them tires burn, and I still give her hell when I hit my last turn. The press thinks I'm country and name me Huck Finn, but if Elton John's country, that's the group I'm in. I fly my own plane, and when I'm in the clouds, I think how that Winston Cup would make my family proud. I'm Wild Bill Elliott, a crazy racing man. I'd like to live up to John Wayne if I can. I'm driving my best when I make them tires burn, and I still give her hell when I hit my last turn. Sound good, don't it?
Sounds great, Bill. He may or may not make it as a singer, but Bill Elliott turned in a gold record performance last Sunday. 3rd man in history to win the pole, the qualifying race, and the 500. Bill Elliott is our champion racer of the week. The Elliott family success story started with Father George, continues now through 3 brothers and all of their families. But for Bill's brother, Ernie Elliott, the crew chief and engine man on the car, well, Sunday's win was particularly satisfying. He put his rig up against all the teams that have that big factory backing, working up in his North Georgia mountain race shop, and Ernie engineered a car that was truly the class of the Daytona field. He gets our U.S. Air Force Reserve Wrangler Behind the Scenes Award. And Bill and Ernie Elliott are now in the running for a couple of Honda motorcycles, one of which goes to our Racer of the Year, and the other to our year-end Behind the Scenes Award winner. Now, we're going to follow Elliott and all the Grand National stars into short track combat tomorrow. The first short track race of the season will take the air at 12:50 Eastern Time tomorrow afternoon, with all the pre-race excitement and exclusive live flag-to-flag coverage of the Richmond 400 here on TBS Sports. Now, for a final quick thought on the big race, former Grand National champion Benny Parsons.
Well, Dave, for 50 drivers for 3 months dreamed of the 1985 Daytona 500. Some dreamed about making the field. Others wanted to run 200 miles per hour. But for about 15 drivers, their only thought was winning the Daytona 500. With the lone exception of Bill Elliott and possibly Lake Speed, those dreams were shattered. And they're here at Richmond to try to rekindle that spark they had 2 weeks ago. You know, the amazing thing about Winston Cup competition, when the green flag drops at 1 p.m. tomorrow, the Daytona 500 will be forgotten, and a new dream will take shape, the Miller High Life 400.
And, of course, your dream is going to come true tomorrow because you get to work with Ken Squire, right?
I've got nightmares about this.
Are you picking a winner?
No, Walter looks real good.
Yeah, he does. I always pick Bill Elliott, but I guess maybe this time I'm going to go with Dale Earnhardt. We're going to see it all tomorrow here live on TBS Sports. Join us at 12:50 for the telecast. A couple of other quick late race notes. Jack Baldwin, the defending GTU champion in Camel GT racing, has won the GTU race at the Miami Grand Prix. That's it from Richmond Fairgrounds Speedway in Virginia. I'm Dave Despain. See you next week on Motor Week.